What's up, guys? My name is Zach, and today I am driving a 1995 Ford E-350 ambulance. Up front is a 7.3-liter turbo diesel V8, and down below is a 4-speed automatic transmission. Now, I am super excited because this is the first time I've ever driven a proper ambulance here on the channel, and if you're a follower of the channel, you'll see that I recently drove my first ever fire truck. So I'm just slowly working my way through the emergency vehicles of the Midwest, and today we are filming an ambulance. But if you would like to submit your own vehicle, you can head on over to my website, zackpradel.com/submit. It's a quick and easy submission form, takes under a minute to fill out, and I come out to you. But first of all, let's talk about this ambulance as a whole, because I did say that it's a Ford E-350, but that's not 100% the case. Yes, where I'm sitting and where I'm driving and all the mechanics of it are Ford, but the back half was actually built by MedTec. MedTec was a company that would build vehicles like this. They would buy an E-350 chassis from Ford, running and driving, and attach their own back to it. This is what's known as a Type 3 from MedTec. And interestingly enough, MedTec actually ended up selling to the Oshkosh Corporation in the year 2000, but in 2013, Oshkosh actually closed the MedTec portion of the company and distributed its assets throughout the Oshkosh Corporation. Oshkosh makes a lot of heavy-duty vehicles. They also owned Pierce, who built that fire truck that I reviewed not too long ago. But let's get back to that 7.3-liter turbo diesel V8 below me. Well, it is an amazing engine. If you know anything about pre-emissions diesels, the 7.3-liter from Ford, the Power Stroke, is one of the best, if not the best, diesel engine to be created. They are by far some of the most reliable. They make great power. They're decently easy to work on, all things considered. And so the 7.3 is the powerhouse of the 1990s, and I'm glad to see it here in this ambulance. Like I said, paired to it is an automatic transmission. We weren't tossing any gears or double clutching any ambulances in 1995, so automatic was the only way. Last but not least, this ambulance is technically rear-wheel drive, although it does have 4 rear wheels, although it is a dually. So whatever you want to call that, that's what drives it. How does it feel to drive a 1995 Ford E-350 ambulance? Well, it's not as sluggish as you would think, as you just saw. It's not fast. It's not going to set any record lap times. It's honestly not that hard to drive. From where I'm sitting, I'm driving a big church van, and then I look behind me and see all this medical equipment, and it's a little bit of a wake-up call, but it's actually not that intimidating. Once you kind of get your bearings, check your mirrors a couple times, it's not that hard to drive, and that's really, really great. Steering is light. I would say lighter than some other heavy-duty applications I've driven. The throttle is decently responsive, for as responsive as a diesel engine can be. And like I said, the power is there. It's just not the highest revving, quickest feeling in the world, but that's okay. With that stuff out of the way, let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, I have 5 gauges. Off to the left is my oil pressure and coolant temperature. Off to the right is my battery and fuel. And in the center, I get my speedometer and my digital odometer. I also get this funny little label that says, turn ignition off before dual battery switch, just in case you forgot. On the steering wheel, I do have cruise control options. So I could hightail this thing on the highway all day long with some nice comfy cruise control. The steering wheel is out of most other Ford applications of the era, so nothing really new to see. Off to the left, we do have a climate control vent, our headlight switch, and moving onto the door, we have power windows and power locks. Moving into the center, I do get climate controls, however, this is only for the front cabin. So we do actually have AC, which for 1995 wasn't necessarily a guarantee. The stock Ford radio, I always love seeing stock radios in vehicles like this. Very, very nostalgic for me, for sure. And off to the right, we have a climate control vent and the 12-volt outlet / cigarette lighter. Now, we have a bunch of added things down below, and I assume these were a sort of as-needed panels for the ambulance, so take it with a grain of salt. So right off the bat, you'll see this giant switch panel. This is for the lights and sirens of the ambulance. So you could take a look at all the different switches. There are plenty of them, a lot to look at, But very, very cool to see that here in the ambulance. Down below that, we have our patient code center along with battery voltage, door open, compartment open, some really cool switches down here. And off to the right, we do have our PA system and siren. And down below, this is actually the high idle controller. So when you're working on a patient, but you might be stopped and you need a lot of voltage, you need a lot of electricity for your tools, you can set this to idle higher to produce more voltage so the lights don't start dimming as soon as you turn something else on. Very, very cool, and I like that it has a big forward button on it too. Really unique to see. However, through all of this, we unfortunately don't have any cup holders up here in the front of the E-350 ambulance. And so, by default, it fails the big friggin' bottle test. That's actually kind of sad. Now, we don't get any form of center console or armrest or anything like that. However, the seats are comfortable. You're going to be spending a lot of time in these seats, and so they are pretty bouncy and cushy, and I've enjoyed my time in them. My back isn't sore, which can't be said about all utility vehicles. However, speaking of utility, let's talk about the actual ambulance part. We're going to hop in back and do a full tour of what's back there. All right, getting in the back of the MedTec ambulance from 1995. Big handle here, opens it up like that. And then there's a handle on the inside for this one and pull it out. Stepping up in, we can close these. Yeah, or not, come on. There we go. We are now officially in the back of the ambulance. A lot of cool stuff to talk about in here. First of all, we'll start off with this switch panel over here. We have tons of different lights that we can take a look at. Buzzer, patient code, exhaust fan, audio level, clock. Nice quartz clock there. And of course the temperature setting for the heat that is blowing very nicely. Tons and tons of storage in here. Really fantastic amount of storage. Sliding, everything locks. Suction tips. I guess that's where suction tips would go. A nice little jump seat here. However, you can open this up and use that as a table. So very, very cool to see that if you don't have someone else riding with you. Like I said, guys, tons of storage. This pulls out storage, storage, storage. This actually slides up and you have tons of storage here. However, you can also access what's in these shelves from the outside. So if we take a step out here just real quick, you can access that shelf we just looked at through the side. Really, really cool that they allow that, especially for emergency equipment. You don't want any wasted time trying to go inside and then not having the right stuff. So, very, very cool. Let's close this up. Pull that back down. I'm sorry, that's probably really loud. Drawers open up like this. More cabinet space down there. We do get a jump seat. Let me do a quick little test here. It's not bad. It's not the comfiest seat I've ever sat in, but it's not bad. Speaking of seats, however, we do have tons more seating over here. I love this Pulse decal, not decal, it's stitched in there. I like that addition, attention to detail. A little bit of an oxygen tube input there. Like I said, more storage, and you could find more storage. So there you go, you can pull the seats up, more storage down there as well. So, I mean, really, so much storage, so much going on. I'll try to get you like a nice, clean, swooping shot here to really appreciate everything that this ambulance has. I forgot to mention we have vacuum and oxygen over there. No smoking, oxygen equipped, and of course that nice MedTech badge. Overall, this is the back space of an E-350 ambulance outfitted by MedTec. Very, very cool to see. Now we gotta talk about the looks, and I don't think it's like a stellar, like hot ambulance, but you know, it's so cool to be seeing one of these and driving one, especially growing up with, you know, shows like ER and House and things like that. There was always some type of B-roll footage of this style ambulance pulling into the hospital, and then of course the drama ensues. Growing up in the late 90s and early 2000s, there's a good chance I know a lot of people that rode in these. I personally, knock on wood, am very thankful that I haven't had to ride in an ambulance before, but you know, just seeing this sort of reminds me of those better days. However, with all of that being said, let's get on to my final thoughts. What do I think driving my first proper, more modern ambulance? And I say that because I technically drove a 1964 Cadillac that was used as an ambulance and had the rollers in the back. It was an ambulance, but that's of a different era. This is still the modern era. Whether you like it or not, Ford is still producing nearly identical vehicles to this. Of course, like I said, MedTec isn't, because MedTec is out of business. But either way, what do I think? Well, it's a lot easier to drive than I thought. I was a little intimidated by driving such a large vehicle, but at the end of the day, it's not that hard. And it really makes sense, because they need to be able to be driven by tons of different people. And so it has to be easy, and it is. They really achieve that. The other thing, like I sort of talked about with the looks, but just driving this vehicle has so much importance to me, because I know people that have needed ambulances. Ambulances are probably the most important vehicle we've ever invented as a human race. Yeah, it's nice to have Miatas and Porsche 911s and Mustangs and heck, even like Mazda CX-5s and whatnot. It's nice to have all of those things. But this is an absolute necessity. This vehicle was built to save lives. And I can't even imagine how many people pass through the back of here and were lucky enough to actually get out, to walk up out of here. That is a wonderful thought to have. This is the true sign of help is on the way. And so now that I've driven a fire truck and an ambulance, I do have much respect for all of the first responders, people that day in, day out deal with these vehicles and use these vehicles for their intended purposes. I'm lucky enough I get to drive this ambulance for fun. This is my job, is to just show you an ambulance. But seriously, I mean, a huge tip of the cap to all of the first responders out there. This is their tool of choice, or was their tool of choice. And for that, I will forever be grateful for every ambulance that drives today. I hope you guys enjoyed this tour of a 1995 Ford E-350 ambulance. Huge thank you to Matt and Al for letting me take out their ambulance. They're planning on building this into a camper, and so I was very thankful they let me film it before the modifications have started. They've been absolutely wonderful. I've reviewed so many vehicles from them. I cannot thank them enough. Please go check out their YouTube channel as well, Wisco Shenanigans. I'm sure they'll have a build update on this ambulance at some point soon, so definitely tune into that. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.